Okay, grade 5, welcome to the second part of our summary. This is the summary for concept 2.2, the matter flow in ecosystem. This is page number 5. What are food chains? What do you know about food chains, or what is the meaning of the term food chain? Food chains show how the energy passes from one organism to another in an ecosystem. So it shows us, do you remember when we talked about plants and animals? We said that the plants use energy from sunlight to make their own food. Then when animals eat plants, so they take, or this energy is transferred to the animals. When other animals eat these animals that already ate plants, so the energy moved to these animals and so on. So the food chain, this is like a diagram that tell us how the energy passes from one organism to another in an ecosystem. They show the food or energy relationships among organisms within a specific ecosystem. The way that matter moves through an ecosystem, it is also called a food chain. This is another definition. The way the matter moves through an ecosystem. This is the path in which the energy or the food or the matter moves from one organism to another. Plants absorb sunlight through their leaves and use the sun's energy to make their own food. Do you remember the process of photosynthesis? That's what happens. So look at this diagram right here. This is like a simplified food chain. It starts with the sun as the main source of energy on our planet Earth. Then the grass, it uses the energy from sunlight to make their own food. Then the grasshoppers eat plants, and the mice eat grasshoppers, while the snakes eat the mice. Then the eagles eat snakes. Then when these eagles die, they fall to the ground, and some decomposers like fungi break down, then break the bodies down and turns them into nutrients. Fungi like mushrooms, these are decomposers. Then the nutrients that were returned back to the soil along with the sun and water cause the grass to grow again, and the food chain starts again. So this is a simplified food chain. Then what? The energy in a food chain starts with the sun as the main source of energy on earth. Energy is the ability to do something, like while you're sitting down right now, paying attention to our session, you are using energy, or you consume energy in order to do anything. Then when we talked about plants, we said that the plants can make their own food. Any organism can make its own food is called a producer. So producers are organisms that can make their own food. Producer that perform photosynthesis use the sun's energy, carbon dioxide and water, to give off oxygen and produce food, which is the sugar, which is named glucose, that other living things consume to survive. So producers are organisms that can make their own food. What about animals? Animals like humans, they cannot make their own food. They get their energy from the environment in which they live. But producers, they are at the base of every food chain because they are the only organisms that are capable of using the energy from sunlight. And this is a reminder of the photosynthesis process. As you can see, when the plants absorb water and minerals from the roots, from the soil by the roots, then transport it to the stem, then to the leaves, while the leaves absorb energy from sunlight and carbon dioxide from the air to make sugar and oxygen. Then let's move to the next page. As we said that animals and humans cannot make their own food, they consume other things in order to live, or they consume other organisms to get the energy that their body need. So they are called consumers. A consumer is any organism that obtain energy by eating producers or other consumers. Again, a consumer is any animal that eats plants or other animals. So it can eat plants or it can eat other animals or can eat both. So let's see the different types of consumers. Consumers are classified according to what they eat into different groups. The first group of consumers, they are called herbivores. These are animals that eat only plants, like cows and rabbits, for example, while carnivores are animals that eat only other animals, like snakes and tigers. Omnivores, these are animals that eat both plants and animals, like us, humans and bears. In this way, the energy from the sun passes through all life on Earth. Look at this picture right here. These are few examples of some types of consumers. We have here in the middle the herbivores, the organisms that eat only plants, like elephants, kangaroos, chimpanzees, rabbits, horses, and hippopotamus. Also the carnivores, these are organisms that only eat animals or meat like tigers, lions, and so on. Also, we have omnivores that eat both plants and animals, like humans, like grizzly bears, raccoons, and rats. Okay, guys, then look at this food chain again. This is another example of a food chain that contains the sun, then the grass that use energy from sunlight, then the mouse that eat grass, snakes that eat the mouse, and the hog that eats the snake. So I need you to pay attention carefully to this picture. Let's move on. So in this food chain, the grass is the producer, while the mouse, the hawk, and the snake, they are consumers. The hawk and the snake, they are called the predators. So what is the meaning of the term a predator? A predator is a living thing or an organism that hunts or kills other living things for food. So this is a predator. This is an organism or an animal that hunt and kill other living things for food. So what about the organism that is hunted or killed? Actually, it is called a prey. Prey is the organism that is hunted or eaten by other animals, which are the predators. The snake and the mouse, they are the prey. Both predators and the prey pass food and energy through the food chain. Look at this picture right here. So I need to tell you something that the snake, for example, in this picture right here, the snake can be a predator and a prey. How come? So the snake is the predator that eat the mouse. So it's a predator. And the snake is eaten by the hawk. In this case, the snake is the prey. So an organism can be a prey and a predator. I need you to listen carefully at the last sentence of this page. Predators are important in food webs. Predators are important in food webs and food chains because they limit the size of prey population. Limit the size of prey population. What does this term mean? The population, as we discussed before, it includes all the members of a single species. Prey means these are the animals that are hunted or killed. The term limit the size means control the number. Keep the numbers of prey under control. Like what? For example, I need you to look at this food chain right here. Imagine that in this ecosystem, there are only grass, mice, snakes, and hogs. And the hogs are removed from this ecosystem. In this case, the snakes will become outnumbered They will grow in large numbers because there is no predator to eat or feed on snakes, right? But the presence of a hawk here in this environment or in this ecosystem, it helps in reducing the number of snakes to keep the number of snakes under control. This is what is meant by predators are important in food webs and food chains to limit the size of prey populations. Then, what are food webs? Since we studied food chains, it's a single path for energy and the nutrients from one ecosystem, from one organism to another in an ecosystem. What if we have more than one or two food chains that have links in common? They are called a food web. So a food web is a model that shows how food chains overlap or interact in an ecosystem. What are the common links between different food chains? This is the food web. All living things interact in food web to fill a particular role. So each organism in a food web has its own function or job or role. A food web shows the relationships among all the species in an ecosystem. The word among means between. All the living things interact in a food web. Look at this picture right here. As you can see, each organism has many connections or interactions in between. Like the eagle, for example, if you can see it. This eagle, it eats frogs, it eats wolves, also eats rats and python and thrush. This is a bird. Also, if you can see the frog, for example, the frog is the part of this food chain of the corn, grasshopper, frog, and python. And also, it is a member in another food chain, corn, grasshopper, frog, and the eagle. Also, the frogs eat the butterflies and eat the fruit fly. So these, all the organisms in the food web, they have many connections in between. This is what is meant by a food web. And also we have a grassland food web. As you can see, the cheetahs, hyenas, zebras, elephants, some trees, also scavengers like vultures. These are all living things that interact with each other in a food web. Then we have the rest of consumers, other types of consumers. We studied 3 types till now. We studied herbivores that eat only plants like cows. We studied carnivores that eat only other animals like lions. We started omnivores that eat both plants and animals like humans and grizzly bears, for example. Then we have scavengers. What is a scavenger? Okay, imagine that there is a lion that already hunted a deer, and the lion ate some parts of the deer and left other parts. Then other animals come and eat these remains of the deer. They didn't hunt the deer, they didn't kill the deer, they only came to eat its remains. These are called the scavengers. So a scavenger is an animal that feeds on the remains of dead animals that it didn't hunt or kill, like vultures, crows, hyenas, crabs, cockroaches, and the house flies. These are the scavengers. Then what happens when an organism dies? When organisms die, their remains contain stored energy. So what will happen to this energy? Then this is the role of decomposers. Do you remember the mold of bread? Do you remember this? The mold, the bread mold. This is a way to decompose bread. So a decomposer is any organism. A decomposer is any organism that recycles, breaks down, or decays. It breaks down the remains of dead organisms into simpler substances. decomposers put the nutrients back into the soil. So these organisms, the decomposers, when they break down the plant and the animal matter, they make some wastes. These wastes are the nutrients, the way to return the nutrients back to the soil, where they can be taken by producers again. Worms, like earthworms, bacteria, molds, and fungi, like the mushroom, they are decomposers that recycle energy and other materials from decaying organisms. The molds grow best in warm, moist environment. This is what we already figured out from the previous activity. So do you mean that the decomposers are important? Yes, they are very important. As a result, decomposers play an important role in any ecosystem because without decomposers, it would take longer time for the things to break down and become nutrients for the soil. And this would mean fewer new plants would grow, and this would mean there would be less food for other animals. And this is the end of our part for today.